Hello everyone and welcome to part 19 of the React series. Today's topic is useEffect hook. useEffect hook is one of the most popular hook among React developers because it allows to build more productive web applications. If you are new to React, useEffect can be little challenging. Let me explain it step by step so it will quickly make sense to you. Also hit subscribe button if you are new so you won't miss any part of this React tutorial series. Let's get started. useEffect is a hook in React that allows React developers to control the behavior of how React component will communicate with the outside world. To put it simply, React and non-React based systems can exchange data and connect with one another. useEffect will ensure that the React component and the external system or API are in sync in order to offer real-time information on a web page or to send user to an external system. It could be used for managing the state and side effect at the same time. If you are working directly with DOM, a side effect in React. In our example, we will use useEffect to render the user name in document title instead of React tag. I have already a form in document title component. I am sure you already know by now how state works, and also you can watch useRef hook from the description. For using the useEffect hook in our React application, first we need to import useEffect beside useState and useRef. Then define the useEffect hook in functional component. So here useEffect accept callback function as an argument. So now I will declare the anonymous function. We can execute side effect inside this callback function. Let's define document property with title and provide back text. Value is going to be hello and username is variable. So we have to put it inside curly braces. Remember to save it whenever you make changes so that they appear on the screen. Inside the browser, when I begin typing, the useEffect hook updates the page title to reflect the user current username. Everything is fine, but the problem is effect will execute code every time the component re-render. Let me demonstrate practically what I am talking about here. In document title component, I will add checkbox to force the value to be capitalized. Stay with me until the very finish. Let's declare is uppercase state variable with const and set is uppercase with useState hook and initial value is going to false. And also declare arrow function with const keyword and the function name is going to handle checked. Here we will add object e and inside the arrow function we will pass set as uppercase with argument e target checked. In the form add input, type checkbox and attribute checked. The value is state variable is uppercase, copy it and paste it here, and on chain event and handler is handle checked. So copy it and paste it here. We will close this input field. Last, I will add ternary conditional operator to toggle letter uppercase with two uppercase function. We will check if the state variable is uppercase is true with question mark, and if it is true we will capitalize it. The username is state variable and the function to uppercase, and if it is false it's going to be as it is, so just username. And here I will pass console to useEffect to show you what's happening. In the browser, look carefully at the tab tools. useEffect run code once when the component is bounded, which means component appears on the screen, which is why the string appears in the tab tools. Now, when I type in the input and change it to React, useEffect execute the code and you see it run. But now I'm not typing into it. and only clicking the checkbox. Look at the dev tools. Even though I am not changing the title, useEffect run the code if I check or uncheck, because every time I check and uncheck, the component re-render and useEffect run the side effect. This is the default behavior of a useEffect hook. Run side effect after each render. Here let me introduce the dependency array, which is the second argument of syntax in useEffect hook. UseEffect is controlled by the dependency array, which determines the side effect should be rerun. Let's see how it works. Here I will provide the second argument with a square bracket after comma. And since useEffect is depend on username, I will provide username inside the square bracket. So here this is a callback function, which is first argument which is required, and the dependency array, which is the second argument. It is optional but important. Now in the browser, let's refresh it. Type username, react, check and uncheck, and notice how number is not increasing anymore. It is 5 if I check and uncheck. So when you provide second argument as a dependency array, which is username state variable in my case, React will compare the current value. We type React with the previous value, it was Elpeeda, of username on every render, and only execute the side effect if the value has changed. Means if I change this now, React to something else like Joe, it run. But if I check and uncheck, useEffect won't run the side effect. If the value is same between re-render, the effect won't rerun, which will save the unnecessary update to the document title. In simple words, by providing the second argument to useEffect, you ensure that side effect only run once when the component is mounted, means appear on the screen, and after only the value of dependency has changed. You also have an option to not provide any value in array and keep it empty. Empty array or dependency means effect have no dependency. If I remove username state variable from array of dependency and only provide an empty array and refresh the browser, now type into input field like Joe, nothing happens. useEffect won't run the side effect. Here it is not logging any console here, because an empty array of dependencies cause React to only execute useEffect statement once after the initial render. As a result, changing the user name has no effect. Time to practice what we have learned so far. I'm going to create a scroll to top position button as a practical example. This is React application that we have been working on since the beginning. From here we can add a new user and filter the list by language. Let's add scroll to top button that will appear once the user has scrolled past a particular point, and when it is clicked, the page can be scrolled to the top. Let's go to VS Code React tutorial project this time. I have scroll top button component inside the component folder. Now I will return button inside JSX with class name top button for styling. Next, we will import this file into the app component at the top. So import scroll top button and return scroll top button inside JSX at the bottom. So here, if you are curious about all the code written here, follow the React tutorial series from part 1. Now let's add the CSS to style the scroll to top button. I have scroll top button CSS file inside the component folder, and I pasted code that I prepared beforehand. Now import this CSS file at the top scroll top button component. So here I will import it, and inside the single quotes I will add the name scroll top button CSS. Remember to add the extension CSS. Let's go to the browser and here we are. And in the app functional component, I will use state to store a boolean value to check the condition of whether the button should appear or not based on scroll position. So use state and initial value is going to false. I will declare variable with const keyword and inside square bracket I will add is display button variable and set updating function display button. Set is display button. I will show button conditionally, so wrap curly braces around scroll top button element. So select this and press shift and curly braces and check the condition is display button true or false with an operator. There is a link in the description to a video I have created demonstrating how to apply condition in different ways. Next, we will use effect to run side effects. So at the top where we import use state hook, we will also import use effect. Let me close this. In the function body, we will declare use effect. Use effect return to statement, callback function and array of dependencies. So here I will declare callback function and after comma add empty array. Now inside this function we will return handle scroll function and this function check if scroll position window page y offset is greater than 100 pixel and if it is update set is display button to true, otherwise it's going to be false. So else set display button false. So now button will appear only when the user has scrolled past the value. Now I will attach the event listener. Inside use effect hook to determine the scroll position. So here window add event listener, scroll event and handle scrolling events on an element trigger the handle scroll function. Now if you look at the browser, you will notice that the button has disappeared, but it appears when you scroll and disappears when you reach the top. The last thing I wanted was the page to scroll to the top when I press the button. Let's add another function and the function body handle scroll to top and it's going to a pointer. Inside is add window scroll to method and inside this method pass object top to 0 and behavior to smooth. Window scroll to method used to scroll smoothly to the top. For this to work, we will pass on click attribute inside the scroll top button element. So here on click and pass the handler which is handle scroll to top. I will just copy it from here and paste it here. Now inside the scroll top button function, I will add the props and the event on click on the button and pass the props here. So props on click. Save it and go to the browser. Click button. When the button is clicked, the handle scroll to top function is triggered and page scroll to the top like this. Here in the example, I added add event listener here. When we perform side effects such as setting timers or listening to events, it may continue to run even after the component has been unmounted or the dependency has changed. For this matter, let me introduce cleanup function to you. You can stop an effect before it's written again by using the cleanup method that useEffect returns. React calls the cleanup function before each rerun of the effects and the last time the component is unmounted. Returning to the previous example where we are using scroll events listener, we should remove the event listener when the component is unmounted as it is no longer needed. It is also known as a return function and how we are supposed to use it. Declare return function at the end of useEffect hook, return, and inside pass window, remove event listener with argument scroll, and the handle function handle scroll. Any data or resources that are modified or created during the component lifecycle, such as subscribing to events, fetching data, or connecting to the server, must be cleaned up or stopped. But if data persists even after the component is unmounted, like static variable, no cleanup function is required. Here we successfully executed effect and performed cleanup. That's it for today's guys. Practice use effect in your project and experiment with real world examples like validating forms and fading animation. Share your experience in the comment below. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Instagram. I will see you in the next one.